Okay, so we're going to do watercolor pencil really quick. I'm just going to show you the ins and outs of it in this area. What you need is a black and white colored watercolor pencil. Make sure it says watercolor, otherwise this definitely doesn't work. A cup of water, and then a watercolor brush. Watercolor brushes are, shocker, in the watercolor brush bin in the back of the room. So what you do is you start, and this is completely different thinking than when you did your colored pencil or if you did charcoal, because you don't want this solid. You want it to look like watercolor. So you don't draw solid, you draw really light. And we ignore the dark areas to begin with. So we just go in to your medium areas and so forth and so on. And some areas I don't even add value into my lightest areas. I'm still doing smooth tones because I still need to blend this. Okay, it's not like I'm doing things differently. I still need smooth tones. So I'm going to start going over all of this. This is my darker of the values coming down here. These are pretty light. I'm barely going to go over it. It's easier to darken things up than it is to lighten things up when it comes to watercolor pencil. Way easier. So in here, I'm going to come over with this value. Again, a nice smooth tone. Come in here. Get my values in here. Again, I'm going to ignore my blacks. I'm not going to fill my blacks in yet. And I'm not going to do anything in here because that's pretty light. I'm gonna worry about that in just a second. So what I'm gonna do next is I'm just gonna use my water and I'm gonna start blending. And my water acts obviously like a blending tool. This is gonna really look like a painting. It's gonna look like we used watercolor and when watercolor is extremely hard to control, and I don't love watercolor all that much. So this, for me, was a great happy medium when I discovered it. And I did not discover these until I started teaching. So to me, this was a great find. I'm going a little darker. I feel like this is just a little light. That was nice, wasn't it? This little dark blob here. That's all right. Blend this in. Now, some people really love watercolor pencils. Some people don't like it. It's just like any other material that you've used. Now I'm going to go in and I'm going to do my blacks. The cool part is you can just actually dip this right in the water. You can come right in here. You can get your black. Now this paper is very thin. It's very flimsy. It's just really copy paper. So you might put holes in your paper. Now if you choose to use this for your actual face, that won't happen. You will get nice paper that is meant to take water and absorb water and really work nicely with watercolor. because you will not be the first person to do this. You won't be the last person to do this. I do have, depending on the year, some people really like their watercolors, so we do get some that use it. So I'm going to come in here. Start adding my detail back in, because that's another really good thing is I can add more detail. Now if I want to lighten things up, I need to wait and let this dry. Even if I want to darken things up, like for example in this area I might want this a little darker. I'm obviously going to have to let this dry, otherwise it's going to be black. See how dark that is? Because the water and the watercolor pencil react to one another. So I would have to wait, otherwise I'm just going to get a muddy mess. Same way with my white. If I want to lighten up an area, let's say I feel like this is too dark, I'll have to wait and let that dry. But if I want my really white areas, I can come in here and lighten things. If I want my whites, I can here. See how my paper is kind of buckling and getting really thin? That's okay. Now I can let that dry. I can go back in and do more things to it. This looks very much more artistic, less grabbable. You know how I talk about how this looks really real, like I can take it out of the picture and grab it. This is going to look more like a painting. It's going to look more like watercolor. Watercolor isn't meant to look like it's grabbable. It's meant to look real. I mean, don't get me wrong. I still want it to look like an eye, look like you when you do it, but it's not going to be solid. It's going to be transparent. It's going to have a lot of different qualities, which is good.